Good evening to you and welcome to our main news at 7 p.m. on QTV. Here are the headlines. Government says its macroeconomic objectives for the medium term 2019 to 2021 is to attain an average GDP growth rate of at least 4%. The Ministry of Higher Education has been challenged to explain to the nation how it intends to recover loans issued to students at public universities. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has dismissed speculations he is the author of a damning anonymous editorial that attacks President Donald Trump. Here now is the news in detail. The government says its macroeconomic objectives for the medium term 2019-2021 is to attain an average annual gross domestic product GDP growth rate of at least 4%. Acting Secretary to the Treasury Dick Suchembe says this is in view of the austerity measures and in an effort to maintain a stable and resilient Zambian economy. Dr. Suchembe has disclosed to Q News in the 2019-2021 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework (MTEF) Green Paper that government also intends to sustain inflation within the range of 6 to 8%. He says government is further wants to raise international reserves to at least 4 months of import cover by 2021 and increase domestic revenue to not less than 19% of GDP by the same year. Dr. Suchembe says, in addition, this government wants to reduce the fiscal deficit to more than 5.1% of GDP by 2021 and prioritize dismantling of arrears and curtail their accumulation. He says this is besides reducing the pace of debt accumulation and ensure sustainability and accelerate the diversification of the economy supported by the implementation of structural reforms. The acting secretary to the Treasury notes that economic and social policies in 2019 to 2021 MTEF will focus on social welfare, education, health, agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, energy and roads. He states that in view of the foregoing, government will implement a strong fiscal policy that is premised on supporting effective implementation of the aforementioned sector. Acting President Inongawina has called on the Ministry of Finance to ensure that the tax burden in the 2019 national budget does not stifle the livelihood of the Zambian people. Mrs. Wina says government desires that tax administration becomes more consultative and responsive to the peculiar needs of all taxpayers. She states that government, however, expects the Zambia Revenue Authority ZRA to proactively engage all stakeholders to help sustain a positive culture of paying tax among the citizens. Mrs. Wina was speaking when she officially opened the ZRA Customer Service Center at Cosmopolitan Mall in Lusaka. And Mrs. Wina has called on ZRA to ensure that the tax burden is fairly distributed according to the principle of the ability to pay. She has urged the Minister of Finance to continue giving the ZRA a highest level of support to make this possible.
While Zambians should pay taxes, the tax burden should not stifle their livelihoods. I'm hopeful that the Minister of Finance will consider this important point when she presents the 2019 national budget. As a party, we have not deviated from our desire to put more money in our people's pockets. This has been the founding principle of the Patriotic Front Manifesto, and we remain committed to that. It is the desire of this government that tax administration should be more consultative and responsive to the peculiar needs of all taxpayers in the country. We will therefore continue to support this and the other similar initiatives aimed at strengthening stakeholder engagement and enhancing the public confidence in the country's revenue mobilization systems.
And speaking at the same event, ZRA Commissioner General Kingsley Chanda said it is the intention of ZRA to continue increasing presence in Zambia in order to make it easier for citizens to pay taxes. He says that this is why the ZRA will open more customer service centers throughout the country.
Your Excellency, collecting taxes from different taxpayers in the country is an immense undertaking. It requires skill, resources, and innovation. At the center of this task is timely provision of accurate information to our taxpayers and simplification of the tax system. It also requires increasing access to tax services, including tax payment points in the country. This is what we intend to achieve before end of this year. And I'm happy to report that our governing board has already approved this process. We do not want to see queues at our offices. Paying tax or accessing tax information must never be a struggle again. For this reason, we will open more service centers throughout the country so that we make it easy for our taxpayers, and depending on how the centers will perform, we intend to start providing 24 hours tax services. Your Excellency.
And Acting Minister of Finance, Emarine Kabanshi, says the launch of the Cosmopolitan ZRA Customer Service Center demonstrates that ZRA is an organization that continues to reform itself. Ms. Kabanshi says the opening of the ZRA Customer Center also symbolizes the progress the Ministry of Finance is making in fulfilling what is contained in the 2018 national budget. The Bank of Zambia, BOZ, has been cautioned against succumbing to any pressure to rescind its directive to prohibit financial service providers from imposing unwarranted charges. Former Finance Minister Ngandu Magande is advising the BOZ to wait until banks begin to show their profit and loss accounts at the end of the year. Mr. Magande says if there will be any bank that will record any losses by the end of this year, such a bank should consider some other restructuring. In an interview by telephone with QTV News, Mr. Magande explains that this is because there could be something that such a loss-making bank may not be doing properly. Mr. Magande, who was finance minister under the Levi Patrick Manawasa MMD government, says the argument about the bank losses are theories that have been heard before. He states that it is common knowledge that Zambia has not in the recent past recorded any bank that has collapsed owing to the decisions made by the bank or the central bank. Mr. Magande says he does not therefore know why banks want to assume that they will run into problems following the central bank's decision to prohibit imposition of unwarranted bank charges. He notes that in his view, it actually confuses customers when there are over 20 bank charges and they do not even know why such charges are being imposed on them.
Well, for us, the customers, we are very happy that we wanted to pay all these charges so that at least since we are going to have a bit of money, once you put the money in the bank, you'll be able to get some bit of interest on it. But the argument about bank losses was theories which we have heard before. And really, for what is happening in the banking sector, recently no bank has collapsed. So I don't know when they say now we are going to run into problems. But it confuses the customers when they are over 20, 30 charges and they don't even know why they are being charged for this and that. So I would imagine that the Bank of Zambia, instead of reacting immediately, let them wait until the banks show their profit and loss accounts at the end of the year. And then those which are going in loss making, perhaps we can decide some other restructuring. There might be something else they are not doing properly. But I think as a customer, and I have accounts in various banks, it's a very good idea for me that at least my money won't just be deducted anytime when they say it's for this and that. Well,
the Ministry of Higher Education has been challenged to explain how it intends to recover loans issued to students at the University of Zambia and the Copperbelt University. The Zambia Congress of Trade Unions, ZCTU, thinks that the nation also needs to know that contracts were entered into with the students who benefited from the loan scheme. In a statement made available to QTV News, the ZCTU wants the Ministry of Higher Education to further state the terms and conditions for repayment and when the repayments began and will end. The union is demanding that these questions be answered, as it is wondering how the ministry will conduct an audit to determine which former students are in employment and those who are not. The ZCTU thinks that a clear distinction must be made between former students in employment and those still searching for employment. It holds the view that this is in order to avoid unnecessary persecution and prosecution of those that will fail to pay back the loans. The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, has revealed that Lusaka has remained the most expensive city for a family of 5, as the cost of living in the capital city is still above 5,000 kwacha. JCTR Social and Economic Development Programs Officer Ntinda Chileshe states that the cost of living last month in its basic needs basket, for example, has increased from the July figure of 5,256 kwacha 29 ngwe to 5,402 kwacha 31 ngwe, reflecting an increase of 146 kwacha. Mr. Chileshe says significant increases in prices were noted in Kapenta, which increased by 78 kwacha from 152 kwacha in July to 230 kwacha in August per kg, whilst a kilogram of beans increased by 3 kwacha from 29 kwacha in July to 32 kwacha in August. He has told Q News that reductions were recorded in the prices of beef by 8 kwacha from 39 kwacha in July to 31 kwacha in August per kg, while a kilogram of tomatoes decreased by 2 kwacha from 5 kwacha in July to 3 kwacha in August per kg. Mr. Chileshe has, however, expressed concern that despite reductions recorded in commodity prices such as tomatoes and onions, the cost of living has remained high and unaffordable for most households. He says the center is further dismayed that despite scoring a good harvest in the production of tomatoes and onions, most of the produce is going to waste.
Looking at our August basic needs basket survey, so as the JCTR, we've discovered to say there's been a sharp decrease in the prices of tomato and onion. So if you look at the price of a box of tomato at City Market, you will find that it's at 25 kwacha. And if you look at the price of onion at City Market for a box, you will find that it's at 35 kwacha. So this has mainly been influenced by the season that we are in. So during this period of the year, you find that production of onion and tomato is easier. This is why we've seen that farmers have produced a lot of it, and the supply of it on the market has increased. Unfortunately, as a JCTR, we've noted to say that this increase has led to wastage of tomatoes in the market. So due to not having enough market places to sell tomatoes, you find that a lot of tomato is going to wastage. So as a center, we are concerned because we as a country should take opportunity of high productions. So as a center, we are urging governments to ensure that there is promotion of value addition in our country through activities that involve production planning, sorting, and researching. We also further urge governments to ensure that there is improvement in storage facilities for situations where we have high production of food commodities.
The Ministry of Home Affairs has regretted the arrest and conviction of 2 police officers who were convicted for aiding and abetting illegal immigrants contrary to Section 46, subsection 1A of the Immigration and Deportation Act number 18 of the laws of Zambia. Ministry's Public Relations Officer Nefas Chifuta has warned officers from its various departments who are engaged in criminal activities that their service life is being monitored and appropriate actions will be meted against anyone found wanting. Mr. Chifuta says the ministry will not support any form of criminality and will ensure that anyone suspected of being involved in criminal behavior is thoroughly investigated and dealt with according to the law. He has told Q News that there shall be no sacred cows to be protected or defended either by the department responsible or the ministry. Political analyst Alex Ngoma has charged that the 3 church mother bodies spearheading the impending national dialogue process have brought confusion. Speaking in an interview with QTV News, Dr. Ngoma says the roadmap to the national dialogue process was already in place, adding that all that is needed to be done is political party leaders signing to the process. Dr. Ngoma has observed that should the church continue on this path, the dialogue process will not take place. He is, however, happy with the plans by the government to go ahead with the publication of the Constitution Amendment Bill should the dialogue process continue to delay. Dr. Ngoma says the country cannot be brought to a standstill just because a section of people have failed to agree a particular subject.
I think that the position that the church has taken is actually a recipe for confusion. There is no need for the so-called national dialogue. This country has always been in dialogue. We have always been talking about all kinds of issues. What there is at the moment is conflict between the UPND and the PF, and that is what needs to be resolved. So the church must allow the ZCID to go ahead and provide the logistics. The church should simply join the ZCID and chair the proceedings of the inter-party dialogue. That's what we need, not the national dialogue. Yeah, even if it is the church that convenes the so-called national dialogue, what guarantee is there that the resolutions will be respected and upheld? So that, I think, is not the issue. The issue is simply that the church has brought confusion to the whole process, and the church must be magnanimous enough to reflect on what it has started.
A total of 54 companies have already confirmed their participation in the Central Province Investment Forum, an expo slated on the 8th to the 13th of October this year. The international companies which have confirmed participating include, among others, from China, Turkey, South Africa. Central Province Minister Sid Mushanga says of the 54 companies, 9 are foreign companies, while the rest are local participants. Speaking during a media briefing in Lusaka, Mr. Mushanga said he is confident that the number is expected to grow in the coming days. He says some companies have also gone an extra mile by pledging to support the expo both financially and materially.
We want the province, a central province, after this expo, to have a very strong economy, because with the employment creation and wealth, our politics will be meaningless to the people of our province. And we want to use this investment expo as a province, as a vehicle to attract investment, like I've already stated, locals to take the center stage in the economy of their province, and also opening the province to the outside world. The last one being economic transformation and changing the lives of the people and the communities where they live in. So I would like to encourage everyone out there to register and be part of this exciting historical event. And I would want to extend an invitation to them to come and see what Central Province has to offer, the investment opportunities in Central Province, and the main job. That's what we have told ourselves as a team here. Hosting is one thing, but after the expo, that's when the main job will start to make follow-ups. That will be very important because that will determine or will shape the destiny and the fortunes of the people of Central Province. We
take our first set of commercials. Stay with us. The news continues after.
In life, growth is inevitable. It fuels us to become stronger, seeing us through challenges as we focus on our goals, shaping us into the leaders we are meant to be, and connecting us to even greater opportunities. We believe in the power of growth, supporting you with excellent service, and spreading our wings to further horizons.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Africa's favorite toilet cleaner just got bigger. Now you can get 50% more cleans with the new Harpic Active Gel 750ml bottle. Harpic, your tried and trusted specialist toilet cleaner.
Get 25 minutes, 100 MB, and 1,000 SMSs for 5 kwacha on Airtel to Airtel, and for 6 kwacha on Airtel to other networks. Get 20 minutes, 100 MB, and 100 SMSs. Valid for 7 days. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Beware the brilliance of new Harpic White and Shine. Its thick bleach and baking soda leaves your toilet blindingly bright and clean.
We now continue with the rest of the stories. Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, CSPR, has expressed concern by the continued delay by government to activate the Farmer Input Support Program, FISP, electronic e-voucher cards. Government had earlier announced that the activation of the e-voucher cards will be done on the 1st of September this year for the 2018-2019 farming season. CSPR Executive Director Patrick Ntinda says his organization is worried that government is failing to keep its word. Mr. Ntinda says this CSPR has observed that the late activation of the e-voucher cards is impacting farmers negatively. He has told AQ News that there is need, therefore, for government to stick to its commitment of activating the e-voucher cards on time.
First and foremost, as a Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, we are highly concerned by the way we are managing the agriculture sector, and specifically with regards to the largest program under agriculture sector, which is the FISP. If you look at the last year farming season, there was delays in terms of activation of the e-vouchers cards, which led to a number of challenges, some among them late planting on the part of the farmers. And this year already we have also not seen the activation of the cards yet, and yet government had committed to ensure that by September this process would have commenced. Coupled with this, there is now this alert of armyworms, and failure to have, for the farmers to have the inputs, access to inputs early enough, we will see a compounded problem where farmers in terms of production will actually be highly hampered. Because when you talk of armyworms, they need to procure the necessary inputs, which include pesticides as well, before planting and after planting, so that the fields are not infested. But if pesticides are going to be done at the point where farmers have already planted and fields have already been infested, you see that the yields in terms of returns from the fields will be very low. And therefore, on the part of government, they need to ensure that firstly, as a program implementation on the FISP, they start activation of the cards immediately so that the farmers can have access to the inputs in good time and plan accordingly. But beyond that, also provide provision in terms of resources for extra money to be able to tackle the infestation of armyworms through the provision of pesticides before and after planting is done.
Minister of Religious Affairs and National Guidance, Godfrida Sumaili, has called on musicians in Zambia to promote the nation's moral values. Reverend Sumaili is urging musicians to help promote good values and principles upon which Zambia is governed as a Christian nation through their music. Speaking when National Arts Council of Zambia, NAC, paid a courtesy call on her at her office, Reverend Sumaili said national values and principles are meant to give direction in the manner in which people conduct themselves in their execution of day-to-day duties. Reverend Sumaili states that it is also important for Zambians to uphold national norms and values for the development of the country, adding that knowledge without norms and values amounts to nothing.
Even before a foreign artist comes into the country, we are agreed, and we are moving together, and we expect that the foreign artists respect who we are as a nation and the values that we hold so dearly. And they say when you are in Rome, do what the Romans do. But having said that, we are also looking at our local artists. I'm sure they can be used powerfully, to disseminate these values in song, in poetry, in dance. We are looking at the National Arts Council as a capable partner, a stakeholder in promoting these values. We'd like to hear songs talking about patriotism, talking about national unity, talking about human dignity, integrity. Even in the fight against corruption, we want the artists to come out to educate the people. So this partnership is very much valued, and I would encourage you, Chairperson, that we continue these conversations, even before.
And NSC Chairperson Patrick Samwembila agreed with the minister that there is need for musicians to become a vehicle to propagate national values in the country. Lusaka Province Minister Boma Lusambo has expressed concern that ZESCO employees are among the highest borrowers from financial lending institutions in Zambia. Mr. Lusambo, who paid an impromptu visit at ZESCO headquarters, says the development is sad as it is keeping most employees away from their work premises in an effort to find alternative sources of income. Mr. Lusambo says his office instituted an investigation after learning that ZESCO employees, in most cases, are out of their working premises during working hours. Meanwhile, Mr. Lusambo has expressed disappointment with the work culture of some employees at the power utility company. During an inspection of various offices, it was discovered that most employees had either not reported for work or they were reported to be sick.
Will be transformed. Yes. The things which we have observed since we came at 7:30. We started with the workshop. Then we passed through procurement. Then we came to customer service. Also, we managed to visit your main gate. The things which we have seen is that your policy, people are supposed to come for work at 7:45, but they are not following that 7:45. We have visited a lot of offices which are closed. We have visited a lot of cubic within your promises. People, they are sick, their child is sick, they are on leave. So I think you have to look into this issue.
And ZESCO Acting Managing Director Fidelis Mubiana has disclosed that some employees are conniving with financial institutions where they are collecting amounts of money beyond the company's set threshold. Mr. Mubiana says the company has since instituted disciplinary action against those that have been found wanting. He explains that ZESCO employees are only allowed to collect loans up to the 35% of their salaries.
Threshold. So one is not supposed to borrow where the net pay goes below 5%. Just to protect themselves, they don't go about doing other things. But we had a few cases where some workers, I think, connived with some bank networks, and when they were able to falsify information and borrow to that extent. What we do when we get such workers, actually we dismiss. But we are sure that we remain one with workers that can add value to the information. Regarding the visit, I think those people that were found not to be in the offices, I think it's good that you've given us this information. We are going to follow it up. You could get the details. And we'll ensure that they all come to line. ZESCO has a lot of work to do. I think the owners of ensuring that we have sufficient power supply for the nation eyes on us. Yes. And with our MD and our visions and missions which are here, really we want to go beyond what we are doing now to a point whereby we are able to aim for an extent for the country.
The opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, has called on China to strive in improving its international trade agreements with Africa and other developing countries instead of giving loans. UPND Deputy Secretary General for Politics, Patrick Mucheleka, says it is not fair and unsustainable for China to continue giving Africa and Zambia in particular debts in forms of loans, as that will only create more problems than solutions to the continent's challenges. Mr. Mucheleka has charged that China is not doing Africa any good. He says it is a shame that the entire African continent would parade itself in China to accept a $60 billion debt that it intends to pump into Africa in the next 2 years without questioning the motive. The Deputy Secretary General has, however, urged the Zambian delegation, led by President Edgar Lungu, to emulate the position taken by the Botswana delegation, which has turned down the debt but that instead asked for improved trade with China, which they feel is more sustainable. Mr. Mucheleka says this is because the debt burden that the PF is placing the country into will have untold effects on the nation's future prospects, resulting into debt swap, as was the case in Madagascar. He has revealed that the current borrowing trend is not healthy, and the sooner Zambia realize that, the better. The Ministry of General Education says it will soon appoint the long-awaited council at the Teaching Council of Zambia, TCZ. Ministry of General Education spokesperson Nonda Chilonga says a consultative process aimed at ensuring a credible and high-integrity council is put in place is currently going on. Ms. Chilonga has noted that despite the absence of a council at TCZ, operations have been going on undisrupted and in an effective way. She has told Q News in an interview that there has been or not been any form of mismanagement of any kind as a result of absence of the council board. The Teaching Council of Zambia, TCZ, is a statutory body established in accordance with the Teaching Profession Act No. 5 of 2013, and it is established to regulate the teaching profession through registration of teachers and accreditation of all colleges of education.
Zambia will be put in place not very long from now. The ministry is actually working very hard to ensure that the council at the Teaching Council of Zambia is put in place as soon as possible. Right now there are consultative processes that are currently going on, and this is to make sure that we actually put in place a credible and high integrity council in place at the Teaching Council of Zambia. The council.
Before going to international news, here's a recap of stories in the headlines. Government says its macroeconomic objectives for the mid-term 2019-2021 is to attain an average GDP growth rate of at least 4%. The Ministry of Higher Education has been challenged to explain to the nation how it intends to recover loans issued to students at public universities.
This is who we are. This is what we do. Beware the brilliance of new Harpic White and Shine. Its thick bleach and baking soda leaves your toilet blindingly bright and clean. Beware the brilliance of new Harpic White and Shine. Its thick bleach and baking soda leaves your toilet blindingly bright and clean.
'Cause I'm having a good time, having a good time. A shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger. I'm gonna go, go, go. There's no stopping me. I'm burning through the sky. Yeah.
With over 500 flights every day, Emirates brings the world together through Dubai. Fly Emirates for a world of good times.
I'm having such a good time.
We now turn to international news. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has dismissed speculations he is the author of a damning anonymous editorial that attacks President Donald Trump. The New York Times article said to be written by a White House official says Mr. Trump's own appointees are trying to stifle his agenda. Fierce speculation surrounds who was responsible, but a spokesperson for Mr. Pence denied it was him. Mr. Trump described the writer as gutless and the newspaper as a phony. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's faith in Donald Trump remains unchanged, and he wants to denuclearize the Korean peninsula during the U.S. president's first term, South officials say. Mr. Kim made his comments to envoys from Seoul who were in the North to arrange a new leaders summit later this month. Relations between the North and the U.S. have soured since the historic Trump-Kim summit in Singapore in June. Most observers warn the North has taken no meaningful steps to denuclearize. The summit being planned will be the first time in more than a decade that a South Korean leader has visited the North Korean capital. Health officials in New York are awaiting the outcome of tests after 10 passengers on an Emirates flight from Dubai were taken to hospital. Acting Health Commissioner Dr. Osiris Babot said their symptoms, fever, coughing and vomiting, suggested flu. Flight 203 was quarantined at JFK Airport and on Wednesday after more than 100 passengers and the crew complained of feeling unwell during the flight. All those on board were screened by the health officials on arrival. 3 passengers and 7 crew members were assessed as needing care in hospital. Ends the news at this hour. Thank you so much for being with us throughout. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye. God bless.